fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
It's the year 1619, and the first slaves are brought over by the British.
All slaves, get out the ship.
It's the summer of 1776, and the Continental Congress is gathered to declare independence from the British Crown.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
It's the year 1793, and Eli Whitney has just made a revolutionary discovery.
I'm Eli Whitney, and I created the cotton gin.
Oh no, that means more cotton can be produced.
And more work for us.
It's the turn of the 18th century, and the first American political parties are born.
I'm Alexander Hamilton, and I think the federal government should hold all the power.
I'm Thomas Jefferson, and I think the states should have all the power.
I disagree.
No, man, I disagree.
Well, I'm forming the Federalist Party.
Well, I'm forming the Anti-Federalist Party.
It's the year 1820, and the issue of free and slave states has arisen.
I'm Maine. I want to be a free state.
And I'm Missouri. I need to be a slave state.
I'm Henry Clay, and I'm compromising to forbid slavery above the 3630 parallel.
It's the year 1850, and Henry Clay is at it again.
It's Henry Clay again, and I propose that 1. California be admitted as a free state. 2. A harsher Fugitive Slave Act will be enforced. And 3. The slave trade will be forbidden from our capital.
Here it is. Harriet Beecher Stowe's famous Uncle Tom's Cabin, a novel which exposed the horrors of slavery and turned many people to the abolitionist cause. It's the year 1854, and Congress has passed the Kansas and Nebraska Act. Acts which allow Kansas and Nebraska to follow popular sovereignty to decide whether or not they will become free or slave states. This, for the main reason, created tensions amongst the Northerners and Southerners because it violated the Compromise of 1850.
Don't you think the Kansas-Nebraska Act is hypocritical of the Missouri Compromise?
Yeah. Hypocritical? What does this mean?
It's the year 1857, and the United States Supreme Court has decided to ban Dred Scott, a black slave, from gaining citizenship, and also deciding that no former slave can have citizenship in the United States.
Please, I should be free! No! Get out!
Like always.
It's the year 1857, and the United States Supreme Court decides 7-2 that no black can be a citizen of the United States, or that they have no authority to ban slavery in any state.
I'm Stephen Douglas, and I think that slavery should be based upon popular sovereignty.
I'm Abraham Lincoln, and I wish to preserve the Union.
And the winner of the 1860 presidential election is...
Yes!
Yes! After the election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860, many southern states soon realized their fate and took immediate action. Starting with South Carolina in December 20th, 1860, 10 more states took action and seceded from the Union to form the Confederacy.
South Carolina, December 20th, 1860. Mississippi, January 9, 1861. Florida, January 10th, 1861. Alabama, January 11th, 1861. Georgia, January 19th, 1861. Louisiana, January 26th, 1861. Texas, February 1st, 1861. Virginia, April 17, 1861. Arkansas, May 6, 1861. North Carolina, May 20, 1861. Tennessee, June 8, 1861.
In April 1861, shots were first fired in Fort Sumter, South Carolina.
Troops, go to Fort Sumter. Woo! We're under attack. We surrender. We surrender.
Now that a full-fledged civil war has begun, each side had its own advantages and disadvantages. The South had the advantages of fighting on its home turf, as well as having more experienced generals, such as Robert E. Lee and General Stonewall Jackson. They also had the advantage of having more experienced citizens who all knew how to bear firearms. The North's advantages were much different, but clearly proved to be more efficient. Their advantages included a more effective economy, with the railroads and the factories all up in the north, as well as a much larger population. Each side's disadvantages were the exact advantages of the opposite side. The South's disadvantages were having a poor economy, as well as poor transportation and railroads, and having fewer men, while the North's disadvantages were having poorer military aid and having a less experienced army. Just months after the start of the war in Fort Sumter, South Carolina, the Northern public clamored for an immediate attack on the Southern capital, Richmond, Virginia, which they expected to bring an early end to the rebellion.
Union Army, let's attack!
General Jackson, what do we do? Time to attack! General Jackson, like a stone wall.
In the spring of 1862, Northern General McClellan ordered his troops into the Virginia Peninsula, where he was caught off guard by the Confederate Army.
Union, let's go to the Virginia Peninsula.
No, sneak attack!
On September 17, 1862, General Lee met General McClellan at Antietam Creek to create the bloodiest day in the Civil War.
General Lee, I think it's smart of us for us to post here and defend.
I don't think so.
On the very first day of 1863, Abraham Lincoln made his most iconic speech in the Emancipation Proclamation.
And by virtue of the power, and for the purpose aforesaid, I do order and declare that all persons held as slaves within said designated states and parts of states are henceforward shall be free, and that the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authorities thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of said persons.
In the summer of 1863, General Lee's army met the Union Army in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, to create one of the most important battles in the Civil War, and also to cause Lincoln to give one of his memorable speeches.
General Lee, let's invade the North.
In November of 1863, after the Battle of Gettysburg, President Abraham Lincoln gave a speech in order to uplift the Union Army and to push the North to victory.
87 years ago, our father brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we're engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We're met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives at that nation might lead. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this.
In the late fall of 1864, the Union was clearly going to win the war, so General Sherman led a march to the sea.
We got Atlanta, General Sherman. What should we do?
Let's go to the sea.
The Civil War was the deadliest war our nation has ever seen. It tore apart families and tore apart our nation. But through the guidance of our great leader, Abraham Lincoln, we were able to overcome this great adversity. But not without a price. our president, Abraham Lincoln, was assassinated.
What an exquisite show. It's brilliant.
And 600,000 Americans were killed amongst their brothers. But this was all for the better of equality and for human race, because 3 important amendments were passed. The 13th abolishing slavery, the 14th guaranteeing African American citizenship, and the 15th guaranteeing their voting rights. This has been the Civil War as presented by Natan Landman, Kyle Nishimura, Aram Bakor, Puvanai Nosavan, Sam Sunarjo, and thank you for watching.